Chapter 50 Holy Days. So shall this day be a memorial unto you, and you shall keep it as a feast to Yahweh throughout your generations. You shall keep this feast as an everlasting ordinance. Yahweh, Exodus 12:14. Holidays in Western culture have become a time to eat sugar and buy things that we don't need. But there was a time when certain days were set apart as holy or sacred. In fact, each day is named after and set apart for a specific god in most cultures. In English, we have the Norse gods, Tyr or Tiwaz, god of war, for Tuesday, Odin or Woden for Wednesday, Thor, god of lightning, for Thursday, Freya, goddess of love, for Friday, the Roman god Saturn for Saturday, and the deities of the sun and moon for Sunday and Monday. In Spanish, we find each day named after Roman gods and their corresponding planets: Martes, Mars; Miércoles, Mercury; Jueves, Jupiter; Viernes, Venus; Sábado, Saturn; Domingo, denoting that Sunday is the day of the Lord Jesus; and Lunes, after the moon goddess Luna. The 7 gods and planets system that the Germanic people of England used came from the Romans, who got it from the Greeks, who got it from the Babylonians. In Babylon, the days were called Shamash for Sunday, Sin for Monday, followed by Nergal, god of death, for Tuesday, Nabu, god of wisdom and messengers, for Wednesday, Marduk, the new head of the gods, for Thursday, Ishtar, goddess of fertility, love, and war, for Friday, and Ninurta, god of agriculture and reaping, for Saturday. In Hindi, days correspond to the same gods and planets as those of English and Spanish. They are Mangalvar, Tuesday, day of the god Manala, who is the god of war, Mars, and auspiciousness; Budavar, Wednesday, day of Buddha, the god of wisdom that resides on Mercury, not to be confused with Gautama Buddha; Guruvar, aka Brihaspativar, Thursday, named for the Vedic sage Brahaspati, who counseled with the gods. Brahaspati is also the name for Jupiter. Shukravar, Friday. Shukra means clear or bright. He was a regent of Venus and a teacher to a group of gods. Sanivar, Saturday. Shani is the black god of vengeance and of Saturn. Ravivar, Sunday, dedicated to the sun god Surya. Somavar, Monday. Soma is a god of medicinal plants who resides on the moon. The hallucinogenic soma plant would be drunk and offered to the gods in rituals. Rather than repeating 7 deities and the 7 classical planets, Zoroastrians have a separate deity for each day of the month, beginning with the highest gods to the lowest. The archangel days are Dadva Ahura Mazda, the great god of wisdom; Bohu Mana, god of purpose; Ashavahishta, god of truth; Kshathra, god of dominion; Spenta Armaiti, god of devotion; Haurvatat, god of wholeness; Amaritat, god of immortality. Then the days of the Yazatas, those who are worthy of praise, are Ahura Mazda or Apamnapat; Atar, god of fire; Apo, god of water; Hvar, god of the sun; Ma, god of the moon; Tishtriya, god of Sirius; Geush Urvan, soul of the ox; Ahura Mazda or Homa. Then 3 days for the 3 psychopomps, those in charge of the bridge between the living and the disembodied: Mithra, god of contracts; Shrausha, god of beauty; Rashnu, god of truth and judgment. The last days of the month are dedicated to these lesser deities: Fravashi, the spirits or souls of the ancestors; Varathragna, god of war and victory; Raman, god of thunder and breath; Vata, aka Vayuvata, wind and atmosphere, known as both an angel and a demon; Ahura Mazda or Daman Afrin; Diana, god of religion; Ashi, god of recompense; Arshtat, god of justice; Asman, sky god; Zam, earth goddess; Mantraspenta, god of holy prayers or mantras, Anagra god of endless light. The Mesoamerican calendars used by the Olmecs, Maya, Aztecs, and others had 20 days, named after animals and natural phenomena associated with the gods, that would repeat to make up 360 days. To complete the solar year, 5 unlucky days were added. The lunar nights were counted in sets of 9 and named after the following Aztec gods: Xiuhtecuhtli, turquoise fire lord; Tezcatlipoca, smoking mirror; Iltzintecutli, prince lord; Centeotl, god of corn; Mictlantecutli, underworld lord; Chalchiutlique, jade is her skirt; Tlazolteotl, filth deity; Tepeyolotl, mountain heart; Tlaloc, rain god. The Aztec sacred calendar also gave homage to one of 20 gods, such as Ometeotl, Quetzalcoatl, and Xochiquetzal, every 13 days. Months. The Egyptians, like the Mesoamericans, based their year on both the sun and the moon, with 12 months of 30 days, followed by an extra 5 days. They too named each of the 30 days for the gods, such as Nut and Min. The 5th of each month was a day of offerings on the altar. A separate lunar calendar was kept by priests in Mesoamerica and in Egypt to keep track of holy days on which ritualistic festivals were held. The 12 Egyptian months were named after the holiday of the month and the deity that was honored on it. They are Thoth, god of wisdom; Phaofi, feast of Opet; Hathor, fertility goddess; Choyak, in honor of Apis, the sacred bull and mediary between gods and mortals; Tybi, for the adoration of Amun-Ra; Mechir, god of wind; Famenoth, pharaoh Amenhotep I; Pharmouthi, Renenutet, goddess of the harvest; Pachon, Kansu, moon god; Paini, valley festival of the dead; Epiphi, Mesore, birth of the sun. Our current months in English have the following meanings. January comes from the Roman god Janus, who, like some Slavic and Hindu gods, has 2 faces. He is the gate or doorway between the beginning and the end of the year. February comes from the word febura, meaning purification. A purification ritual was performed in Rome on the night of the full moon of this month. March is named after the god Mars, just as Tuesday is. Some have theorized that April comes from aperire, Latin for to open, because it marks the spring equinox and the opening of the year. But a more probable origin is that it comes from Aphrilis, meaning Aphrodite, the goddess of love, known to the Romans as Venus. Thus, the month April and the day Friday are dedicated to this goddess. May is named after Maya, the goddess of growth and midwifery. It may also relate to the word mayor or greater, with June being the junior or lesser. June is named after the queen of heaven Juno. July was Quintilis, the 5th month, until it was named for Julius Caesar, who is believed to have descended from the gods. It was the 5th month because the Romans, like many other cultures, used to begin their year on the spring equinox. Thus August was Sextus, the 6th, September was the 7th, October the 8th, November the 9th, and December was the 10th month. August was named for Caesar Augustus, whose name means harvest. This month was the time of the harvest festival in other cultures as well. The Old Dutch calendar named this month Oogstmaand, which translates to harvest month, from the Latin Augustus. Other early Germanic calendars also called August the month of harvest. This is the month Elul in Hebrew, which is the month of harvest and named after the Sumerian god Enlil, whose emblem is the plow. Despite the disdain that the Jews had for the Babylonians, they depended on them for civilization. Among the learning received from Babylon was their calendar. Of course, the Babylonians received their information from the Sumerians. Beginning on the spring equinox, the Hebrew calendar starts with Nisan, which in Babylon was Nisanu, named for the god Anu. Next was Liar, Babylonian Aru, the bull, for the god Ea, Sumerian Enki, and the constellation Taurus. Sivan came from Simanu and the moon god Sin. Tammuz came from Dumuzu, the vegetation god. Av came from Abu, which both mean father. As Av begins on the summer solstice and in the constellation Leo, the presiding deity is logically Shamash, the sun god. Elul, as mentioned above, came from Ululu and the harvest god Enlil. Tishrei is the Hebrew equivalent of the Babylonian month Tishritum. It also relates to the Zoroastrian month Tishriehe and the goddess of Sirius. This star goddess was called Ishtar in Babylon. As Judea gained this knowledge from their neighbors to the east, Babylon also took in culture from their eastern neighbors, the Elamites, aka the Zoroastrians, Aryans, Persians. Though these three cultures began the new year in spring, the Jews and Babylonians had a civil year that began in the month of Tishrei. The name for the Hebrew month Marcheshvan came from the god Marduk. For the Babylonians, this was Samna, the month for laying foundations. Kislev was Kislimu, with Nergal as the presiding deity. Tevet was Tebetum, the time of inundation, and the Akkadian messengers called the Papsukal. Shevat was Shavatu, meaning the mid-rest in the civil year. The month name Shavat has the same meaning as the word Shabbat or Sabbath, which most Christians use today for Sunday as a holy day. Jews and Muslims begin their Sabbath at sunset on Fridays and end it at sundown on Saturday. This day is dedicated to the god Yahweh, Allah, and it is based on the biblical command from Allah to Moses to make every seventh day a holy day of rest. The word Sabbat comes from Sumerian and means mid-rest. Although Sumerians did worship various deities every seventh day, the Sabbat or Sabbath was once a month on the full moon. The Sumerian holy days are based on the cycles of the moon. At nightfall on the new moon, offerings were made to Enki and Ma, who are both deities associated with the moon. On the night of the half-waxing moon, offerings were given to Merodach, Marduk, and Ishtar. The full moon ritual was dedicated to Ninlil and Nergal. On the night of the half-waning moon, the moon and sun gods Sin and Shamash were worshipped. On the seventh week of 7 days, called a week of weeks, Ninurta and Gula, goddess of healing, were worshipped. The last month in the Hebrew calendar is Adar, from the Babylonian month Adar, which came from the Persian month Adar, that is named for the Zoroastrian god of fire, Atar. To keep the calendar correct, the Babylonians would add a month every 17th out of 19 years. This month was named Makarusha Adari, after the Assyrian head of the gods, Ashur. Ahura Mazda, as we have seen, is the first day of the Zoroastrian month. He is worshipped on the 1st, 8th, 15th, and 23rd days. The other deities are respected on their particular day, but the months are also named after the gods, and when it is both the day and month of a particular deity, a special holy day is dedicated to that god. For example, on the month day of Adar, offerings were made to the god of fire. The Zoroastrian months are Farvardin, which is under the protection of the spirits, Ordi Behest, under the protection of Ashavahishta, Kordad, under Haurvatat, Tishtrehe, Tyr, the star Sirius, Mordad, under Aneratat, Sahrivar, Sharthravira, Meher, for the god Mithra, Aban, the water god Apam, Adar, the fire god Atar, Dei, Ahura Mazda, Bahman, Vohumana, Esfand, Spenta Armanti. Festivals. Jewish. Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement and Repentance, is the holiest day for Jews. They spend much of the day fasting and praying in a synagogue. It became Yom Ashura in the Islamic calendar. It falls on the fall equinox. Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights, is a celebration of the Second Temple in Jerusalem, a winter solstice holiday. Passover, or Pesach, is a time to remember the Israelite exodus out of Egypt into the Promised Land. It used to be a time for pilgrimage to the temple. For Christians, Pascua is the Easter holiday in remembrance of the resurrection of Jesus. It is in the month of Nisan and begins on the night of the full moon after the vernal equinox. The Old Germanic calendar names this month as Ostermonat, Easter month, after the goddess Istre, which came from the Phoenician Astarte and the Babylonian Ishtar. Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks, was a pilgrimage harvest festival that Yahweh commanded the Israelites to celebrate. Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles, was an end-of-year gathering of the harvest and was another pilgrimage to Jerusalem back when a Jewish temple was there. Zoroastrian. Nowruz, New Day, is New Year's Day for the Persians. It lands on the vernal equinox. A table display called a heft scene contains objects that symbolize rebirth, such as wheatgrass sprouts and eggs. Seta is the lighting of a holy fire on the night of the winter solstice to make merry and revive the sun. 5 other feast days are held. In the month Baman is the feast for animals. In Adar is the fire feast. In Shahrevar, the feast of minerals. In Spendarmad, Esfand, the earth feast. Kordad, water feast, and Amurdad, plants feast. Along with the equinoxes and solstices, there is a harvest festival and a bringing home of the herds. Frauwardigen is a 10-day commemoration of disembodied souls. These days of the dead are celebrated at the end of the year. Interestingly, commemoration days for the dead are found in the holy days of Egypt and Mesoamerica, as well as others. Hindu, Holi, Color Festival, a celebration of the love between Lord Krishna and Radha. As the story goes, Krishna was concerned about not having fair skin like Radha, so she let him rub colored powder on her face as a symbol of their love for each other, and that skin color did not matter. Holi is named after Holika, a character in another story that is celebrated in parts of India on the same day. The festival begins on the night of the full moon closest to the spring equinox. Like most ancient cultures, the Indian Sanskrit calendar began on the first day of spring. The throwing of bright colors is symbolic of the flowering of vegetation in this season. We see this symbolism in the Persian Nowruz and in the Christian Easter. The 12 Hindu months each have a deity that they are dedicated to. The first month, Chaitra, is dedicated to Vishnu, of whom Krishna is an avatar. Vaisakhi is the second month and the name of the harvest festival. Ganga pilgrimage, trip to the Ganges River, takes place in Jyestha. Sravana is a month of fasting on Mondays for the god Shiva and/or fasting on Tuesdays for the goddess Parvati. Pitru Paksha, fortnight of the ancestors, is 16 lunar days set apart for the veneration of dead family members. It is believed that souls dwell in Pitraloka, fatherland, with Lord Yama for 1 to 3 generations before reincarnating or being liberated. During their time in Pitraloka, the living descendants perform rituals on their behalf. Diwali, the Festival of Lights, is a celebration of the victory of light over darkness and knowledge over ignorance. Various deities are worshipped on Diwali depending on the region. Many light candles for Lakshmi, the goddess of prosperity. Like Hanukkah, candles are lit, and like Christmas, homes are decorated with lights. Many make a rangoli, symmetrical artwork made of colored sand, encircled by candles. Diwali begins on the new moon of Kartika. The month of Kartika is named after a chief commander of the Deva gods. Mahashivaratri, Great Night of Shiva, like Diwali, is a celebration of overcoming darkness and ignorance. Christian. Christmas is the celebration of the birth of Jesus. Although Jesus was born in the spring, the 25th of December, when the sun is reborn each year, is the designated day. The solstice is Yule in Northern Europe and Dongzi in China. The solstices and equinoxes have always been important holy days for us humans. Easter was inherited from an older celebration of the fertility goddess Ishtar on the spring equinox. Imagery of new birth, such as eggs, grass, and bright colors, are the emblems of this holiday. Just as vegetation is resurrected in the spring, Jesus was resurrected from the tomb. The Catholic Church designated the first Sunday after the full moon of spring for this holy day. Thanksgiving is a harvest festival started by Christian migrants to North America. However, harvest festivals were not a new idea. World cultures celebrated them for millennia. St. Valentine's Day, the celebration of romantic love. Before the Roman Catholic Church, this day was the Roman holiday Lupercalia, which was a purification time for fertility. The Roman god Cupid is currently a common image for this day. China. Chinese New Year is a spring festival celebrated with colorful fireworks. This 2-week holiday ends with a lantern festival, a parade, and a lion dance to celebrate the first full moon. Qingming Festival is a day to visit, clean, and make offerings at ancestral graves. In Mexico, the dead are given offerings on El Día de los Muertos. In the U.S., flowers are placed on graves of ancestors on Memorial Day. Qixi Festival is an observance of the goddess Xinu, the star Vega, who fell in love with the young boy Niu Long, the star Altair. As punishment for their forbidden love, they were separated by the Milky Way and could only meet once a year on this night. It is the Chinese equivalent of Valentine's Day. Ghost Festival is another day to burn offerings for the ancestors. Monkey King Festival is a relatively new holiday that commemorates the Monkey King's battle with the gods. Incense and burnt papers are offered to him. The ancient Chinese were expert astronomers, much like the Maya and other ancient cultures. Mesoamerica. Aztec feast days included rituals concerning fertility rites, the celebration of the revered ones, and the anticipated return of the gods. A variety of rituals were performed on the holy days, and many of them continue to this day. Inca. Like others, the Inca had many holidays. Rituals included sacrifices to the gods, both bloody and benign. Food, llamas, and children were sacrificed. The most important holy days were the summer and winter solstices. Astrology. Astrology means the study of the stars. The wise men and women of ancient times were astrologers. The new term astronomy was made to differentiate new ideas about the stars from old ones. Somehow, all ancient cultures had a surprisingly vast knowledge of the stars. They mapped out the constellations, tracked the movements of the planets, and used this information to make accurate calendars. The Dogon of Africa knew about the binary system of Sirius before modern scientists were able to prove it. Ancient pyramids were made to mirror the stars of the heavens. Observatory shafts found in Giza, Chichen Itza, and Pawnee Earth Lodges were placed in alignment with specific stars because they believed that humanity's origins were from these stars. The gods that brought wisdom to modern humans told them so. We struggle to understand how a small group of humans cultivated grains and legumes before city-states were formed in southeast Turkey, and how rice in China and corn in America were cultivated around the same time. But these cultures have already given us the answer. We just didn't believe them. The unanimous consensus of ancient societies is that beings from the heavens came to earth and gave them the knowledge. Sumerians divided the constellations between the divine trinity of Anu, Enlil, and Enki, with the path of Anu being the northern stars, the path of Enlil those of the zodiac, and the path of Enki, Ea, the southern stars. Ancient Sumerians knew that the sun would move through 30 degrees of the ecliptic every month, moon cycle, and they divided each 30-degree increment of 360 degrees into 12 constellations called the zodiac. They also knew that the sun would slip backwards a little each solar year, and all the way back through one zodiacal sign every 2,155 years, creating the precession of 25,860 years to cycle through all 12 constellations, zodiac signs. In those times, a holy bull was venerated in India, Mesopotamia, Egypt, etc., because the age of Taurus, the bull, lasted from 6,300 years ago to 4,000 years ago. The Babylonians used the zodiac, and they planned on competing with the gods. They built the Tower of Babel, which was a Stargate, or space station. The eighth gate to the inner city, Babylon, with its decorated blue walls, was called the Ishtar Gate, Stargate. It was and is believed that the proximity and energies of the various heavenly bodies have an effect on our lives. It was also believed by the Druid priests of Western Europe and others that at the time around the equinoxes, the filters or veil between our realm and that of the dead are thinner. Thus, magicians and shamans use this time to connect with the departed and beings of the unseen world. Interestingly, the LDS founder Joseph Smith was visited by an angel on the autumnal equinox of 1825. He returned to visit the angel on the same day for the next 5 years. There may be certain times of year that are more advantageous for travel to and from our planet than others. In any case, the gods gave the knowledge of the stars and how to calculate time to ancient humans. Then we named the heavenly bodies, days, weeks, and months after them. Special days have been set apart as holy days, and we perform a variety of similar rituals on the holidays. Calendars. Many ancient structures were built as calendars. The Konark Sun Temple in Odisha, India, works as a sundial and representations of days and months in its construction. It is also designed to look like a flying chariot palace of the gods. On top of the temple was a large magnet. The stairs up the front of the temple of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza, Mexico, have one step for each day of the solar year. On both equinoxes, the larger steps cast a shadow of a serpent that appears to slither down the pyramid as the sun passes over. Kukulkan is Quetzalcoatl, the winged serpent god. The Stonehenge Monument in Wiltshire, England, is also said to have been used as a large calendar, where people would feast on the solstices and equinoxes. Below are a few images to show similarities between ancient calendars from across the globe. Stonehenge, Wiltshire, England, the first light of the solstice would shine directly over the heel stone, through the slaughter stones, and land directly on the altar stone. Aztec calendar, found buried in Mexico City. Dendera zodiac, found in the Temple of Hathor in Egypt. It contains representations of the various constellations as animals.